Mrs. Baker's Sparkle Cookies. Once upon a time, in the heart of a bustling town, there was a bakery that everyone loved. It was called Sweet Treats Bakery, and it was owned by the kindest lady in town, Mrs. Baker. She had twinkling eyes and always wore an apron dusted with flour. Every morning, long before the sun came up, Mrs. Baker would start her day by mixing dough and baking delicious treats. The smell of fresh bread, muffins, cookies, and cakes filled the air, making everyone's mouth water. One sunny morning, Mrs. Baker had a wonderful idea. She decided to create a special cookie that would bring smiles to everyone who tasted it. She gathered her ingredients: flour, sugar, eggs, and butter. But she added a secret ingredient, a pinch of magic. With a sprinkle and a stir, she created sparkle cookies. These cookies weren't just yummy, they sparkled with tiny, colorful lights. The next day, children from all over the town rushed to the bakery to see the new cookies. There was Timmy, who loved chocolate chips, Sarah, who liked sugar cookies, and little Emma, who loved every kind of cookie. Mrs. Baker gave each child a sparkle cookie, and their faces lit up with joy. "Wow, these are amazing," exclaimed Timmy. "Look at them sparkle," giggled Sarah. "They taste like rainbows," cheered Emma. Mrs. Baker was delighted to see everyone so happy. From that day on, sparkle cookies became a special treat at Sweet Treats Bakery. One rainy afternoon, Mrs. Baker noticed a little boy named Max standing outside the bakery. He looked sad and hungry. Mrs. Baker invited him inside and gave him a warm chocolate chip cookie and a glass of milk. Max's face brightened up immediately. "Thank you, Mrs. Baker," Max said with a big smile. "This is the best cookie ever." Mrs. Baker patted Max on the head. "Everyone deserves a sweet treat, especially on a rainy day," she said kindly. Soon, word about Sweet Treats Bakery spread far and wide. People came from neighboring towns just to taste Mrs. Baker's famous sparkle cookies. The bakery was always filled with laughter and happy faces. One sunny morning, Mrs. Baker found a wonderful surprise waiting for her. The children had painted a big sign that read, "We love Mrs. Baker." They had drawn colorful pictures of cookies, cakes, and smiling faces. Mrs. Baker was touched by their love and appreciation. She decided to throw a big party for all the children. She baked a giant cake with layers of chocolate, vanilla, and strawberry. There were cupcakes with rainbow frosting and, of course, plenty of sparkle cookies. The party was a huge success. Children played games, sang songs, and enjoyed the delicious treats. Mrs. Baker knew that her bakery was more than just a place to buy sweets. It was a place where everyone felt happy and loved. As the sun set, Mrs. Baker looked around at the smiling faces and knew that she had the best job in the world. Sweet Treats Bakery was not just her bakery, it was the heart of the town. And so, every day, Mrs. Baker continued to bake her special treats, spreading joy and sweetness to everyone who walked through the doors of Sweet Treats Bakery.